What would happen if you disappeared and left your business to run itself for 2 whole weeks? Would it survive and maybe even continue to grow, or would it drown in chaos with nothing getting done and everything falling apart? Well, if your business wouldn't pass this 2-week test, don't panic, because at selfmastery.co, I've helped countless business owners from 6-figure solopreneurs to 9-figure distributors redesign their business to run without them. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to systemize your business so it runs and scales without you, regardless of your business model or whether you have 100 employees or 3 team members. And look, the first thing I'm going to say here might shock you, but SOPs and automations are not systems, okay? I know everybody thinks this, but they're not. They're more like ingredients or parts of the system. The system itself is the abstraction layer that ties all those ingredients together and turns them into a working machine, because a system is simply an input, a series of processes, and an output. And when you don't consciously build out your systems in that format, you're essentially blindfolded at the wheel of your company, and you end up relying on instinct and adrenaline, hoping that you'll figure it out as you go along. And this is actually sort of a side point, but this is why no serious investor would ever back a business that can't show or explain its systems. If all you can do is present a few to-do lists and a few automations, you don't really have a business, you have a glorified job. And the moment you stop working, it all stops with you. So step 1 to systemizing your business so it runs without you is to actually map out your systems. Now, to do that, I recommend you open a Canva whiteboard, and then you want to start with the core functions, which are marketing, sales, operations, and finance. Some businesses, if they're bigger, might have HR, etc. But those 4 functions are in every single business. These are your major systems. So write these out along the top. Now, remember, a system has an output, a goal that it's trying to achieve. So each of these core functions or systems exist to produce a specific outcome. Marketing generates leads, sales converts them, operations delivers a product or service to a high standard, and finance manages cash flow and profitability. I would recommend you write these goal outputs under the system just for some clarity, because next what you need to do is list out every single task in your business, and I do mean all of them, everything from writing an ad to sending an invoice to checking emails, and then identify the goal of that task. And what you'll notice is that each task has a goal that aligns with the goal of a system. For example, you might create content to generate leads. You might review your finances to manage profit and cash flow. You might take calls with clients to deliver your product or service. Once you have identified all the goals of each task, and make sure you identify the end goal, the true reason you do a task. Because, for example, as a business owner, you don't create content to get followers. You do it to get leads. So if you get the wrong goal, you'll not be able to systemize correctly, okay? Because next, what you need to do is group all the tasks under the system with the same goal. So for example, all the tasks that turn leads into customers get put under the sales function. These tasks are the processes in your sales system. You then want to order them in the logical order they happen in. For example, if you have an operations system, you might have your client calls before your onboarding process. Well, that doesn't actually make sense because clients have to be onboarded first, so client onboarding tasks go before the general fulfillment tasks. Also, you might want to, and well, you should, consider any what I call fixed placements. These are fixed placements in your systems are things like websites, booking pages, CRMs, email automations, customer portals, etc. The customers have to go through in each system to get to the next step of that system. So, for example, if you take sales calls, well, customers have to book the call. So make sure you have your booking page as a set placement at the end of your marketing system before they become a lead. Now, when you do this, what you'll see is you'll have the output of one system, and that actually becomes the input of the next. Marketing creates leads as the output, and sales converts them into customers. So the input of your sales system is a lead, as you can't do any selling until you have a lead, okay? And for your marketing, your input, I like to say, is your target avatar messaging, as really that's what determines your entire marketing strategy, from the words you use, the problems you target, the best channel to market to your avatar on, etc. Once you've done this, you've mapped your entire business systems, okay? And now you can quite literally see exactly how your entire business operates from end to end. And it might shock you, because one of the things we see all the time at selfmastery.co, links in the description, by the way, if you want to work with us to redesign your business to run itself, is that businesses don't have a set marketing task. So they map their marketing process and realize, oh crap, we don't do anything for marketing, which is actually such a good opportunity, because now they can start doing something for marketing drive way more leads to the business, and grow much faster. So you often, when you're mapping out your systems, see weak points like this, things you're not doing, things you don't need to do. And it's step one to redesigning your business to run itself, because without knowing your systems, you can't fix or improve them. But now that you've mapped the whole system, the next step is to strip away the waste. And this is where most business owners finally realize just how many things they're doing that make zero difference at all. Because now what you need to do is walk through each step of your systems, and for each task or process, ask, if I completely eliminated this step, would the system still produce the same result, just as effectively or even better? If the answer is yes, cut that task, stop doing it. If the answer is no, then ask, can I automate this task or process with AI or software? If yes, automate it. If not, that's fine, it stays. The best way, by the way, to see if something can be automated is to simply ask ChatGPT. And this is exactly how you remove the invisible weight and bulk your business is carrying. And depending on your business, this might be a lot of stuff that can be cut, or it might be nothing. But the only way to know if your systems can be simplified is to do this audit. But the real question isn't just what needs to be done in your system, it's who owns the outcome. Because if you've ever delegated something and it still comes back to you, it's not actually the person's fault, it's the system's fault, because somewhere along the way, responsibility was unclear. So your next step is to go through each step of your systems and make someone responsible for each task and each entire system. One thing you need to make sure of here is that only one person is responsible for something, because if you have two people responsible for a task, one person will always assume the other person will do it, and so it just doesn't get done, at least not in the way you want it to, because it might end up being rushed as one person realizes the other person isn't going to do it, creates a pile of headache, okay? So have one person responsible for every task and every system, but just because one person is responsible for said task, it doesn't mean only they can do it. It just means they're likely the person to do it, but it makes sure that they're responsible for ensuring it gets done, that it's done well, that problems are fixed, etc., etc. And typically, if you have managers or team leaders, they're the people who are responsible for the entire system. So you could have a marketing manager who is responsible for the entire marketing system, but then you have an individual who is responsible for the ads process in the marketing system, and that person reports to the marketing manager in charge of their system. Now, how this looks will obviously depend on your team. If you have a big team, you might end up responsible for very little, but if you're solo, you'll be responsible for everything in your business. It's just the nature of the beast. And whether you're solo or you have a team, this is how delegation becomes pretty easy and your business can run itself. As long as you obviously have SOPs and other tools in place, which, unfortunately, I'm not going to tell you about those other tools, as I have to keep something secret for my clients. But, if you want to know how we get team buy-in, ensure delegation never messes up, causes no headache, etc., click the first link in the description below to work with me. I'll help you redesign your business to run and scale without you. Anyway, what you can do now to delegate is simply look at what you're responsible for and hand over that responsibility to a relevant team member. Or if you don't have anyone on your team to delegate to, just mark it for future delegation, and now you know what your next hire might be, because really what you hire for should be based on task, demand, and team capacity, but that's for another video. And look, so in terms of what to delegate first, there's no set rule, okay? There's only frameworks, because in the long run, technically everything will be delegated, or at least most things will. So it doesn't really matter what you do first. Like, there's no clear cut right or wrong. Like, maybe you're spending 8 hours a day doing client work. Well, you should probably delegate it first, because you've no time to do everything else if you're spending 8 hours a day on client work. Or maybe your day is spread pretty evenly amongst tasks. Well, maybe you then look for the things that are cheapest to delegate or outsource, as they're typically the lowest value, and then you delegate it first, okay? Either way, once you've mapped the systems in your business and you've assigned ownership, you can quite literally look at your map and see what you own, and therefore what you can give away. This way, delegation becomes visual and systematic and not emotional. And for your business to run itself, you simply need to hand over responsibility for all the day-to-day operations of your business to other people. That way, if you're not there, if you disappear for 2 weeks, your business still runs. And you can take it to the point where you do nothing in your business. You can hire a COO or CEO or general manager, depending on the scale of your business, to take over everything for you if you want. It's really up to you what extent you take this to. But even once ownership is assigned, you still need to lock in a consistent standard of work, because, there's no point getting other people to do the work if the work is going to be crap. We don't want that, okay? So this is where SOPs come in. Your next step is to go through every single task or process in your systems map and create an SOP for that task. Now, I have entire videos on my channel dedicated to SOPs, how to build them correctly, how to make sure people use them, etc., etc. So I'll not go too in depth here, but essentially a good SOP answers 3 questions. How is this task done step by step? What does right look like? What happens if something breaks? And really all you're doing with SOPs is you're writing down the exact step-by-step method to doing that task in a way it should be done. And if you want to, what you can do is also record a loom, which is basically a screen recording of you doing that task. It can help. For some tasks, it's actually a great idea to do this, but for others, it doesn't really matter. It depends on the complexity of the task and if it's better shown visually rather than just in written steps. But once you have your SOPs, everyone who is doing a task follows that SOP to do that task in the correct way. And if someone has a question when doing a task, they go to the SOP first for the answer. Now, if the answer is not there, they go to you or their manager. And anytime a question is asked about a task, you update the SOP so that question is never asked again, okay? And also, a cool thing about SOPs, which most people never realize, is that they make improvement in the business pretty easy. Like, if you're not happy with the outcome of a certain task and what it does, you can change a part of the SOP to change how that task is done and therefore the outcome of that task. So improvement becomes pretty damn easy across the business. However, if you want your business to run itself and you don't want to have to micromanage everything, you need to turn responsibility, which we covered, into accountability. To do that, think of your business, you need to think of it like a pipe, okay? Each function, marketing, sales, operations, finance, is a section of that pipe. Water flows through it. At the start, the water is a lead, then it enters the sales section to become a customer, then operations to get a result, then it comes out the pipe as profit. Okay. But if one part of that pipe is blocked, the entire flow of water slows down or it can stop. Like, for example, if sales is blocked, you get leads from marketing, but no sales, and therefore no customers, and therefore no profit. That blockage is your constraint. That's the block that is holding your business back and limiting it. But here's the problem. If you're not tracking your data, you can't actually see the block. So now you're stuck guessing, reacting, tweaking random things, blaming the wrong team member, changing offers, shifting strategy, all in an effort to try and grow your business because you don't know what's holding it back, when really there's just a fucking block in the pipe stopping everything. This is why we install scorecards. These are basically Excel spreadsheets where you track the data for each system. So you want one for each system where you just go through each step of your system, track a metric which shows if that step of the system is working well, and then you set a goal for each metric to essentially act as a benchmark to compare the metric's performance to, okay? You also want one high-level scorecard for the business, which shows you at a glance the most important metrics of your business. And potentially, depending on the role, you want one for each team member so you can see their performance. Not only does this give you clarity because you can quite literally just look at these spreadsheets and see how your business is performing in every way, and it makes business so much easier, but you stop leading based on how you feel and you start leading based on what's actually real and objectively true. Because now you can look at the data and say, oh, none of our leads are showing up to their calls that they book. Let's make a change in our system to fix this. And now you're making decisions based on real data, not emotions. So business becomes easier, way less stressful because there's no guessing. It's just data. And it also reduces like the pressure of every decision having to be right, because instead of making a decision, making a change, and then like thinking, oh, is this working or not? You just look at the data. Okay, it relieves so much stress and pressure from you, which allows you to make better decisions and better changes and operate at a higher level and grow your business faster and easier, okay? It also means that if, your marketing is doing crap, the person in charge or of marketing knows this. They're held accountable and they know that they need to make a change and improve. And at this point, your business is fully mapped, it's fully owned, it's fully documented, it's fully tracked, which means it can basically just run without you. But only if you install this last thing, which is a feedback loop, okay? One of the best ways to install a feedback loop for your entire business is a single weekly meeting where everything just gets reviewed, corrected, aligned, and improved, okay? In that meeting, you basically go through all these scorecards in your business. You identify any issues holding people back. You hold people accountable because if your sales is shit, your sales guy is called out. Not like in a, what the fuck are you doing so crap sort of way, but more in a beneficial accountability way. You solve issues, you review rocks, which that's something for another video. And you essentially make sure the right people are working on the right things at the right time to keep the business operating and growing. And that problems are getting solved and work is being done. And the company is not only running, but that it is actually growing. And here's the best part, right? Once you have your systems built, like we just went over in this video, you can run your entire company from this one meeting. Okay. You don't need to be in Slack 24/7. You don't need to micromanage every task. You don't need to keep everything in your bloody head and stress you out. Okay. And eventually, if you want to, you don't even need to run this meeting yourself. Okay. You can just outsource that. And this is exactly what I help 6, 7, and 8-figure business owners at selfmastery.co do. So if you want your business to run without you and you want me to help you do that step by step, click the first link in the description below, apply to work with me. But this actually brings us to the final step, and it's stepping into your real job. Because once your business runs itself, you can finally do the one thing that only you as a business owner can do, and that's design your business. This is the part where you shift from doing the work to improving the entire system, okay? You can essentially start to work on the work that only the business owner can work on, okay? And if you want to know exactly how to spend that time every week to ensure progress, alignment, and scale, click this video on screen now, and I'll show you exactly what you need to be working on every single day.